Comic books are engaging forms of art. They span different genres like action and thriller and reach different age groups from kids to adults alike. You've probably had an idea to make your own comic book for yourself. My name's Eric Robles and I go under the pseudonym Ashes to Steel, and I've made a couple of books of my own, and I'm here to show you the different steps it took me to make my own book. The first thing you'll want to do when making a comic book is getting your story in order. No matter how short or long you plan on making it, it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Doing so keeps the reader from getting confused and keeps you consistent when making several books. Remember, even good art can't salvage a bad story. While doing a script like a professional screenwriter isn't mandatory, knowing what your characters say and do is crucial for laying out the action when you draw. After writing out the basics of the story, I divide them up into small chapter-like segments. Here's where I plan out the action and the exact dialogue. This way, when I do start drawing, I can lay out my speech bubbles accordingly. Storyboarding is similar to a blueprint for the artwork. Before anything is actually drawn, a storyboard helps you lay out the action, flow, and dialogue for your panels. I make my storyboards on a sheet of paper divided into quarters, with markings to let me know where to leave a space for the spine of the book. Having the artwork bleed into the spine will cause problems when the book is printed, since even when a book is fully opened, some of the spine will obscure any artwork that gets too close. Another important detail to pay attention to is flow. Action in a page should go in the direction that is read, so that it moves the eye along to the next page. Having the flow zigzag around can cause confusion and break immersion in the story, no matter how good it is. Actually penciling your comic may seem like the easiest part, but there's a couple of things to keep in mind. This is comic book paper. As you can see, it has guides in blue ink all around the border. These guides disappear when you scan your drawings into the computer and are pretty handy. If you don't have the money to shell out for spiffy paper, that's okay. The purpose for these guides is to keep everything in the live area, this box right in the middle. It's the safest place to put your artwork as it won't get cropped by the scanner or bleed off the page when you print it out. Right here is where your most important parts of your artwork as well as dialogue bubbles should go. If you decide to use regular paper, keeping this in mind will come in handy. If you can find paper like this, however, it is incredibly useful. Also, don't forget to mark off a section on the side where your spine goes. As far as actual art goes, you'll want to use a light pencil, unless you aren't planning on inking it. There are special blue pencils that, just like the guides, phase out when you scan your image, making it easier to avoid stray marks. Inking is a careful process. There's many ways to do this, either with special pens or actual nibs and ink. You can even use a tablet, like this Wacom Bamboo tablet, to scan your pencils into the computer and ink in a photo editing software like Photoshop. I personally prefer micron pens that come in a variety of sizes. A couple of principles in inking are often overlooked, but are crucial for good art. First off is line weight. Having your lines all the same thickness renders it flat and uninteresting. If you want, start off with a thin pen, and then use a thicker pen to add line weight. This primarily goes for things that are heavy on one side. A thin line suggests lightness, while a thicker one suggests heaviness. If you're inking many things in one panel, you can make the foreground and background stand out with the line thickness as well. Thicker lines suggest that things are closer to you, while thinner lines make them feel far away. Don't forget that you can use hatching and cross-hatching for creating texture and shadows. It is now time to scan and fix your picture up in the computer. For a good resolution, scan your picture at 300 dpi, or dots per inch. Some scanners have a default resolution a little lower, so adjust it if you have to. Here, we have our page all scanned in. We can still see the lines, so the first thing we need to do is adjust the levels. You want to move the dials until those lines disappear, leaving your crisp black lines left. Now, you might be satisfied at this point, but there's some things you can do here that will make your inking process easier. First off, you can feel large patches of solid black easily here. When I know I need to do large blots of black, I leave the area open and simply fill it in here on Photoshop, on another layer so it sits on top of the picture without permanently ruining the art. Another thing you can do here is what's called toning. In many black and white comics, they color in gray areas with the pattern of black dots. These are called screen tones and come in many different shades, sizes, and such. The easiest way to apply these is to use the stamp tool and brush in the pattern. Lastly, adding text in the dialog boxes finishes up the process. If you have a problem picking a font, first, never use Comic Sans. Second, there's a bunch of free fonts you can find online, one of which is called Web Letter, which I use for most of my own comics. When you're done, you'll want to save this as a .tiff file. This makes the file a lot bigger, but it will also save all the layers you've been working on, so if you open it in Photoshop again, you'll have everything organized. You're now ready to send your comic into the web. If you want to make it into ink though, you'll have to find a desktop publishing software. If you can't get Adobe InDesign, a freeware program called Scribus has the basics you need to set up a PDF of your images. There's a bunch of tutorials you can look up that can explain these programs a lot better than I can, but a few tips I can give is to make your file half letter size and to have a margin around to keep the artwork from bleeding off. Exporting it into a PDF will keep it in a book format so the printers don't have to struggle with all your images and have something go wrong. Now that you're ready to print, it's time to start shopping around for print shops. Most shops differ in the prices and services they offer, so you want to ask around first. A key point to know is, if you decide to make a large order, each book will cost individually a lot less. For example, one of my orders came out to about $120 total, but each book was only $2.50. Sold it off at $5, and there's still profit to be made. Well, now you know what it takes to make your own comic. It may seem like a daunting process at first, but trust me, there's no greater feeling than flipping through something you made yourself. If you have time, check out some of my friends who taught me these simple rules, and hopefully you too can make your own comic books just the way you wanted.